Hi everyone, welcome to episode 37 of Customers Who Click. Today we've got a slightly different topic for you. It's quite marketing related, but it has huge impact on customer experience, conversion rates, and even average order values. Today I've got Chris Jordan with me. Chris is the CEO and founder of Carryr, who specialise in providing flexible delivery options to brands and their customers. You can charge different amounts to different locations at different times. You can be more or less specific with delivery slots, and loads of other options to make it easier and more convenient for the customer. Loads of brands get their courier options in place. They sort out next day delivery, and that's kind of the extent that they go to. But consumers are getting more needy, really. They want even more from their delivery experience. Now they want convenience, and Chris is going to talk through how you can give it to them. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the podcast. If you could tell us a bit about yourself, a bit of your background, and why you're doing what you're doing at the moment.
Hello, Will. Yeah, great to be on. I've listened to a good few episodes before, and I really enjoy what you're doing. So it's a good honour to be on here. So, I mean, initially, what I'm doing. So, we're on a mission at Carryr to complete the promise of e-commerce convenience. And how we do that, what we want to do is supercharge the whole delivery experience. So, I mean, how it all started was, I've been in retail for my whole life. I started dabbling in logistics over the past few years, and eventually got through a really deep rabbit hole with it. And it was my girlfriend was just ordering a ton of clothes online, and it just come to me to think that this is such a broken experience. We're missing so many deliveries. We're having to go out to sorting offices to pick up any missed deliveries, or have many different attempts that probably aren't even that convenient to have them redelivered. So effectively, it's just got to a point where I was just so aggravated with the current experience that everyone just has to settle for. And I just wanted to build out from scratch and just build the best experience possible. But that's a bit about how it all started. And yeah, that's really what we're working on. And it's mainly for the fashion industry at the moment. Simply because that's like the biggest market that has those problems, and it's one of the markets that have a lot of repeat purchases, which of course have many bad experiences attached to them. So we just want to solve as many problems around that as possible.
Yeah, so for fashion it makes sense because it's high frequency, and especially with the number of businesses that offer like free delivery, free returns, there's so much opportunity to view a few products and go, yeah, cool, whatever, just order them, check them out. If you don't like them, send them back.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a full journey. So, I mean, with fashion, but like you say, as it's so regular, there's so many more elements to the delivery. So it's not only just click on the website and have it delivered. It's also, okay, well, what if something isn't the right size or right color, or it's just not quite right? There's also the return journey as well. So it's literally the whole end-to-end experience. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
I guess let's kind of talk about delivery a bit more generally then, like how it's changed and developed over the last few years. Like, I know obviously everyone likes convenience, but it kind of feels like shipping and delivery has become such a major part of the purchase decision these days. Yeah.
And I think delivery has been quite synonymous to be quite boring. So if you say the word logistics, it's not quite the sexiest word in the world, and it's quite a turn off when you think about it. And I think it really hasn't lived up to any kinds of glamour over the past couple of decades. Now, however, over the on the rise of like the likes of Amazon's and all your different marketplaces that really push like the next day or same day, that kind of thing, it really has made it much more of an element where customers really demand that convenience and speed. But I think there's a lot more to it than that as well, because it's all well and good having that speed element, but it also needs to be convenient. So it's no good having a customer select something within an hour, or having something delivered as soon as possible, and they're not, something pops up in their life, as everything does with us now. People live such fast-paced lifestyles. If something pops up, they're no longer going to be around to accept delivery. So again, that's going to trigger a missed delivery and a reattempt at some point. So it really is all about convenience. But if you lace that in with speed and the agility, that's, I think, really where it really benefits both the customer and the merchant, the retailer.
Yeah, 100% agree. I'm fortunate enough that where I live, I have a concierge. So any deliveries, if I'm not there or if I don't answer the door for some reason, the package gets delivered there. So it's very, very rare that I don't get my delivery on the day I was expecting it. Occasionally, for some reason, the delivery driver will just drive off with it, and I do have to get it re-delivered. But yeah, most of the time it goes to the concierge, so that kind of works for me. But yeah, occasionally, like I had a new fridge freezer delivered a couple of months ago, and I had to be in for that, obviously. But initially, they say, well, the delivery is going to be between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. And, obviously at the moment during kind of lockdown and pandemic, that doesn't really matter because I'm at home. But even then, it means I'm thinking, well, in between 8 and 7 p.m., until I get an update, that update telling me the hour or two that it's going to be, I can't plan. It's difficult to plan calls. It's difficult to plan like going to the gym, whatever. So yeah, it does get quite inconvenient. And yeah, I remember when I had to go down to like the sorting offices a couple of times, and I hate it because they don't even make it that easy, do they? Like their office hours are generally quite short. There'll be queues and things, so it's a nightmare experience. So if I didn't have the concierge, I'd definitely be wanting to order from a business that can say, we can deliver this between, maybe even a 3-hour slot would probably work for me.
No, absolutely. It's more along the lines of like precision and communication. If the communication is ultra clear and ultra precise, then I think that's where customers can relieve a bit of anxiety, because that's one of the big feelings that customers are left as soon as they've hit that buy button and made that purchase. We've discussed this before about the buyer's remorse. They're right in that element right after purchase, and it's a completely different feeling from when they actually made the purchase. But if they're able to learn, okay, well, I know it's definitely going to come at this point, and the communication is nice and clear, and even if something does happen between the point of sale to the point of delivery, at least it can be communicated very clearly, very quickly, so the customer can make their decisions as well. I think that's probably one of the things that really is missing. I think things have got better, but it's still a huge lot of work to be done, generally speaking.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how this changes over the next, I guess, year or so, with the way people are going to continue working. It's early December when we're recording this, so we've just come out of our second lockdown. But if people continue working from home, then maybe the speed is just what they want for the kind of the most part. They just want things same day, next day. But if people are going back to the office, that's when the whole convenience bit comes in, and they say, well, now I need it between these hours because that's when I'm home. And if some companies are giving up their offices, then the ability to get that next day delivery to the office kind of disappears.
Yeah.
As well. Are there any, I guess, around the options that can be provided, maybe as either from a consumer point of view or business point of view? Are there any kind of misconceptions around having different delivery options? Maybe offering multiple options?
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite things to think about, actually. And I think there's a very fine balance of where you ideally want to be as a retailer or a brand. So you don't want to be overwhelming the customer with too much choice, but you want enough choice where you can actually reflect their motivations and what they actually want from you as a brand. Whereas and then on the other side of the spectrum, you've pretty much got nothing there that really latches onto that customer. So there is a very fine line, and I think one thing that is missed out at the moment is that they're not really working backwards from their customers' motivations and what they want from your brand. So, for example, if you work backwards from your customers, you could say, okay, well, do my customers care about being eco-friendly? Do they want to do their bit for the environment? Okay, well, let's work out a way on how to offer that and how to present it to them as well, so they're fully aware of what's going on when they hit checkout. Or do I sell a product where it really hits home with the impatient customer? Well, okay, let's look at ways where we can really put speed in. And then there's things to do with like fast-paced lifestyles, so maybe scheduling makes more sense for them. And then there's also the price sensitive, so maybe they don't need things that quick, but they just want it as cheap as possible. So really it's working out exactly what your customers want and who they are. That's where it really starts off with, and then offer what it really means to that customer as well.
Yeah, I think that just reminded me of Ocado. I've not actually used Ocado for a while, but when I did, they did have kind of green delivery slots, which were a little cheaper because you shared the delivery with someone else. And I suppose that ties into two of them, really, the whole eco-friendly and price sensitivity.
Yeah.
You know, you might be both, which is great, but if you're eco-friendly, you're going to pick that option. And also, if you want an extra pound, like a pound off your delivery fee, and you're willing to put up with having to receive it at certain times, that plays into that as well. So I think you're right. It's really important to consider what your customers want, and I suppose also, does it tie in with your brand values? Yeah. If you are a brand that really focuses on being eco-friendly, but you're offering 1 hour delivery at whichever slot you want, I don't know for certain, but I can't imagine that's the most eco-friendly option.
Yeah, no, exactly. I completely agree there. You've really got to think about how it's been offered and how it's also operated as well. So again, with the eco-friendly, you can vet the right partner and make sure that they've got the right practice in, which really ties in with the brand. But yeah, it's really, really understanding about the whole process and making sure that really does tie in with the customer and your brand.
Yeah, I do think most companies obviously view delivery as very much the logistics and operations side of the business, but I think there's so many ways of tying it into marketing. Not just from a messaging point of view, as saying we offer next day delivery, or we offer delivery within a 2 hour time slot, but even things like, you could tie it into your loyalty scheme as well, depending on your brand. Obviously, for eco-friendly brands, you could probably offer loyalty points to people who pick the eco-friendly option.
Yep. Yeah, and it's again within like your database as well. You could even pick your VIP customers, and if you want to make them feel that even more special, you could give them an exclusive sort of option. There's so many ways. You're right. There's so many ways where you can actually tie that into marketing, and I think we're just at the beginning of it, because we've only really, over the past decade, we've only really experimented delivery with price. And I think there's just so much more opportunity other than price that we can use it to be able to make the customers feel good, to get more customers and retain them as well, which is probably overlooked as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, free delivery is now kind of best practice, really. Even if it's with most of the time with a threshold, purchase order value threshold, which kind of makes sense. And pretty much all the couriers out there offer it as well, because they've got the logistics in place, and it's not too difficult, I guess. I'm saying it's not too difficult. I don't actually know, but that's my guess, given how widespread it is. But I guess logistically wise, what are some of the key things a business would need to consider if they wanted to offer much more flexible delivery options?
I think one of the biggest things which retailers are really starting to hone in on at the moment is inventory management. Now, if you don't know what you've got, where it is, and how many of them you've got, and where it is at that point in time, really, you can only really standardize the whole delivery offering. I mean, next day at best, there's no point in figuring out time slots or anything, because, for example, you could have someone walk into a shop, for example, and they've bought something there, and also somebody's sold out, bought the last item from your central fulfillment warehouse. So, and if all that's zeroed out, dynamically wise, you can't really offer that sort of option. Now, if you've got a next day and you can secure a next batch of items for the next day, or you can locate, it gives you that bit more time to be able to locate it. But really, you need to have that understanding and that data to be able to know what you've got at what point in time. So on the fly, you can figure out, well, okay, customer in location A has ordered this product, but we've only got it in location B. Now I've got to get it to that location, or one that's close to that location, to be able to fulfill on my promise. So having that level of understanding really is detrimental to the next phase of evolution of the delivery option, I guess.
Yeah, definitely is. Yeah, I imagine, like, I guess as long as you've got stores, well, not as long as you've got stores, it's much more important if you've got stores. And if you want to be able to distribute stock from those stores via delivery, if you're kind of an e-commerce only brand, I imagine it's a bit easier, because you probably only have the one or two distribution centers. Yeah.
There really is so many complexities when it comes to the whole central fulfillment side of things. And what we're seeing in the industry is people are starting to, or retailers are starting to really spread their wings throughout their different inventory points. So rather than just relying on a central fulfillment process, because, for example, if somebody in London orders a product and your fulfillment center is middle of the country, the Milton Keynes or the Manchester sort of way, it's probably not going to get there in a timely manner. To make it worthwhile, it needs to be piled on a very large vehicle with many other orders to be able to break cost. So it's got to be done in a manner where it does make sense for the retailer economically, but also it can fulfill on the service levels as well. But I think going forward, it's wise to be able to, if you have got that store inventory out there, it's probably wise to be able to spread your efforts and get not only the stores but central fulfillment to work holistically with the brand rather than independently, because at the end of the day, the customer really doesn't care where it's coming from, who's processing it. All they want is for it to be delivered when you say it's going to be delivered, and when it's convenient for them as well.
Yeah, you're completely right there. They don't care where it's coming from. Sometimes it's a bit interesting when you look at the tracking details and you can see the different places it's moving in between. But really, and I suppose maybe there's that almost, in fact, I think maybe there's that level of transparency which is almost causes confusion for a customer as well. If you see that your order's been shipped and now it's at this like fulfillment center or whatever, and you're thinking, but hang on, that's miles away, that's across the country or something, you might actually start to worry that your order's not going to reach you on time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But again, it really does tie in with that communication thing again. If you can, as a carrier, if you can really communicate what's happening, why it's happening, just clearly to the customer, they are forgiving, but you just need to be able to communicate it in the right way. Because if you don't, then they're not going to be that forgiving, both to you and the brand you're delivering on the behalf of. And it's not really a good way of practice, I don't think, anyway.
Yeah, I think communication is really important. And I know you obviously want to keep costs down, but, text messages cost, 19p or something, I think, commercially, if that. No, yeah. Sorry, but it might be 0.19 pence.
Yeah.
I think that's right. So being able to just send an SMS to say, right, you don't want to overdo it, so it doesn't have to be too frequent, but your order's been dispatched, your order's an hour away, stuff like that. I think occasionally you get notifications from Amazon saying, or it might be Prime Now, saying your driver is one delivery away. or something like that. So it's not minutes away, but it's you're coming up. So just be aware.
Yeah.
But I had one experience recently. Actually, it was prior to delivery even beginning, actually. But I'd ordered a PC monitor from quite a big, well-known computer brand, and I ended up getting in touch with them to check on the order, on the status of the order, because I'd received a refund, which obviously seems a bit odd. So logged in, saw that my order was still confirmed, but shipping date was about 2 weeks away. Might have been a bit longer. So I got in touch with customer service just to check, and I said, well, I've received a refund, but no other information, no email or anything. So I just want to check, make sure the order is still happening. And they confirmed it was. But at the same time, I then checked the product details on the website and noticed it was £30 cheaper. So I said, well, and the customer service person confirmed that I would be charged on, I think it was either dispatch or delivery. I can't remember, but that was going to be about two and a bit weeks away. So I asked if I was going to pay the current price, or the price on dispatch, or the price that I had originally selected, and she said it was the price that I had selected, which I thought was a really odd way of doing it, because if delivery is going to be 2 weeks away, I might as well cancel that order, and I've got 2 weeks to go and find the product elsewhere, or just come back to this company to remake that order. So I know that's not quite exactly tied into delivery, but it was the fact that delivery was like 2-3 weeks away, and they started offering a cheaper price but wouldn't give it to me. So just didn't make sense to me.
And I think that's probably one of the things that both retailers and carriers need to be able to work together on, and have both businesses and both their business logic, to communicate well with each other. So in your scenario is, okay, well, if the price has changed, they don't need to cancel it and or anything like that. They really could have had all those logics pre-programmed to be able to communicate with the whole delivery side of things. And it really does. It takes a bit of grunt work, considering how complex these systems are. But I mean, realistically, everything needs to just be connected to each other in an ideal world, anyway. And so all types of systems can talk to each other, and full transparency is out there, and promises can be delivered in the fullest capacity for the customer, which is the most important thing.
So what are some of the biggest or kind of most common mistakes you see with delivery? I suppose it's from a brand side. You don't really get mistakes from a consumer side, but what are the mistakes you see?
I think you're right. There's not many mistakes on the consumer side of things, because essentially it's what they want, and it's up to brands and carriers to be able to develop what they want and how they want it. But I think it's more of a mindset type of thing with retailers, merchants, and brands. So it's more, conventionally, they've got the mindset of, okay, let's just compare apples for apples. So cost wise, what's this going to cost us on a pound for pound basis? Now, if you compare they might not be the direct comparable to each other. And so you might have one that's extremely cheap, but in the long term, the whole process or the whole experience that carrier offers, it might cause a lot of misdeliveries and have to reattempt several times, which would end up costing the retailer more. So it could double in price. And then you've also got like both pre and post purchase experience. If any of that fails or breaks on the customer, guess what? They're not going to see the brand that they're purchasing off in good light. And that could either be through a very poor review, leading to customers not converting or not even funneling onto their site. And ultimately that customer that's purchased had a bad experience might not ever return again. So there's a lot of potential to have lost orders with things like that. So I think comparing it cost wise is probably an old way to do things. Instead, it's, I mean, you know yourself, doing it on the ROI side of things. It's okay. Well, what's it actually giving me? If I fulfill it from store, is that going to alleviate any pressure from central fulfillment? Okay, great. If it's going to be delivered to the customer within an hour, is it going to lead to more product sell through? Great. If I'm offering some form of returns where it can just get picked up within an hour, great, we can have that on the shelf within an hour and potentially fulfill another sale off the back of that. So there's so many different elements to actually view and explore that just comparing the face value cost is probably a closed-minded way of viewing things like this. But I think during these types of periods as well, the whole festive season and Black Friday, actually, I think retailers do see the potential of cutting costs. I mean, you could only just type in a few keywords on Twitter and you can see the amount of customers that aren't very happy with their experience, and that's due to the amount of volume going through. And sometimes it just can't be handled because the process is broken.
Yeah, and like you say, almost all the time that comes back to the retailer as well. So even if it's the courier's fault, if they're having problems at their end, the consumer still has the problem with the brand, and has a bad experience with that brand, and you can't really just pass the blame either. You can't say, well, our contract with this courier says next day delivery guaranteed. So if there's a problem, it's their fault. That doesn't go down well with the customer.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think it's almost a given now that it's pretty much expected from every carrier to fail at some point in time. So if something does happen, it's just, okay, roll my eyes. I knew it was going to happen at some point. Let's take it on the chin, but let's complain to the retailer. Carriers are kind of seen as almost like a commodity now. It doesn't really matter what brand takes ownership of that experience. It's just going to be a matter of time until a fault appears, and it's always the retailer that takes the blunt end of the stick, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unfortunately, I don't recall the last time I had a problem. Yeah, with a retailer or a courier. Although I'm sure there probably has been. Actually, I remember I saw on LinkedIn not too long ago, someone was just saying they'd signed a contract with a courier for the Christmas period to offer next day delivery. And then I think was either told or found out that I think they were saying they had something like a 5% success rate at the moment with next day delivery.
Oh, wow.
Which is, I mean, firstly, like shockingly bad.
Yeah.
But also agreeing to work with someone on next day delivery, but you must know that fault is there as well, and that you're not actually fulfilling the orders.
Yeah, that's. I'll tell you what. Things like that, they'll probably be better off messaging themselves as 95% success rate of 3 to 5 business working days instead of 5% next day. But I mean,
yeah, exactly. But if you want to offer next day delivery, on your site, then that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, I have. So I guess a question I can put to you, if you know, are you expecting any kind of big differences this year with the Christmas period, given the year we've had?
Yeah, I think the inevitable in terms of retail, the inevitable has happened. So what should be happening over the next 5 years has happened within a year, meaning that retail in terms of stores, they've changed, and in terms of delivery, customer habits have changed. So people, of course, they've had 2 lockdowns here in the UK at least. They've had 2 lockdowns to be forced to use e-commerce, and to be honest, once they've gone through that that period of, I don't know, 28 days, a month or so, they kind of rewired themselves to be able to just get used to that. And I don't think things are ever going to go back to exactly the way things were. It's going to be slightly different. People are going to be, I think the transaction long term is going to live on the e-commerce side of things. But I mean, it's all about now anything extra in terms of like retail, and it's all about the experience now. I think we've just kind of got to get a grip to say the transaction is going to stay e-commerce. Let's not worry about that, but let's use everything else to concentrate on the experience. So if I do have stores, what can I do to be able to give the best possible experience to my customers? Now, is that down to like showcasing the product in a different manner? Is that down to events? Can I do localized streaming, localized content generation for social media, stuff that's much more marketing orientated towards their localized customers, but also like, okay, well, I've already got this space as well. How else can I use it? Maybe use it as a fulfillment destination as well. There's loads of different things that I think retailers can do to be able to utilize their assets in a positive manner. But I think, things have changed. Customer habits have changed. It's probably going to be staying in terms of relying on the internet to make the purchase. And at the end of the day, customers always go for the most convenient option. I mean, it makes no sense for someone to rush to something which has more friction unless it provides them more value of some sort. So that's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree. I'd love to see more brands having more kind of experience-led retail stores. However, I'm just aware that, in the UK at least, business rates and rents kind of make that impossible.
Yeah,
you can't. A lot of brands can't afford to have a store that's not dedicated to sales.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe more brands could go down the kind of Argos style route of, you go in, there aren't actually many products at all out on the shelves in the store. Actually, you've got kind of a massive brochure. I mean, it's basically an e-commerce store.
Yeah.
But you get the product there and then because the fulfillment center happens to be attached to it. So maybe not quite like that, but just a different experience in store that engages people and gives people a reason to go in store.
No, absolutely. I really agree with that mindset as well. And I think Argos have almost pioneered that sort of thing. They've been doing it for, decades. That's kind of what they've known for, and that's one of the reasons why they've managed to be able to pull off same day delivery as well. In some locations where it might not be viable for the conventional retailer. And I think, seeing it as an inventory point to support e-commerce is probably one of the best things to be able to do, and that can also support revenue as well. So I completely agree with that.
And in terms with, I guess, staying on the trends theme, do you see any big trends coming in the way either businesses offer delivery or and are there any new trends in how consumers are going to view it as well? I mean, we've already got next day. That's like the standard thing now. So are consumers going to be demanding even more?
Yeah, I think so. As long as it's getting pushed from every other angle, I think consumers are always just going to want more, better, faster. It's. I mean, I guess it all started. Excuse the pun, but they've all been primed to expect more from this experience. So whether that be greater speed, flexibility, or just an added bonus. So I mean, I keep referring to Amazon because they do it really well with their platform. But when you're a Prime member, you get all the benefits of having the Prime Video and music. There's a whole ecosystem behind it, and I think there's something like that. Which I think is on the rise for people outside of that platform as well. I mean, you can only see the payments industry, for example. You've got the likes of PayPal now, which are getting into buy now, pay later. You've had Klarna, which have been doing it for years. All the brands that operate that side of things, there's a whole ecosystem behind it now, and a community behind it where they're really incentivized to take part in that. And I think it's probably one of the things that's really gonna wrap itself in the delivery package, so to speak, in the coming years, is really to build up the value of it, not just the commoditized service of moving something from A to B, but what else can be done to be able to excite that customer, what else can be done to make them feel special on that doorstep, or to really put their convenience at the front of the carrier's mind. And I think that's probably the one thing which conventional carriers haven't got quite the mindset to do, because they're seeing things from a parcel point of view rather than a customer point of view.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you. What do you think about like delivery subscriptions? I guess it's tied, as you were talking, I was thinking about Prime and how, I use the video a little bit, to be fair, but obviously the content costs them a lot. Getting free next day delivery, it's not cheap. I know they've worked out the logistics a lot, but it still can't be that cheap. So I wonder how much value they get from me. They must lose money on the 79. I think it's £79 a year. So they're hoping that will be balanced out by the amount that I spend, because I'm a Prime customer, which is probably true. It's so easy to just click buy and order something new from Amazon. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot of companies offering unlimited free delivery at a fixed price per month or per year. But what's your opinion on that? Because it just feels like it's another tactic to kind of discount the experience, really, and obviously make things cheaper, but by incurring more costs.
Yeah, you really said something that home for me. It's just easy to click and buy with the likes of Amazon. They just make it so damn easy, and the reason why they do that, again, it's because they want more orders from you, and of course, the more orders you make, the more it's either going to balance their side of things economically or and some more. But I think it's something which is kind of in the experimental phase at the minute. You see all like the pure plays, which have a very, very loyal base, and it makes sense for these guys simply because they've got you've got customers on there that are making repeat purchases, sometimes on a weekly basis, and in some cases on a daily basis. So it really does make sense for them to roll it out, because it increases that volume on a per customer basis. But if you've got companies that are doing, I don't know, for example, like furniture, for example, where they don't refresh furniture for every like 5 to 7 years, there's no point whatsoever doing a delivery subscription, because the life cycle is extremely long. But if you've got a really short life cycle and one that's very sticky, within the fashion industry, you've got quite a lot of niches in there, fast fashion being one of them. It really does make sense. But again, I think, like you say, there's probably going to be more to be built up on, to be able to build more value into it, to keep those customers getting more value from it. And outside of the whole Amazon platform, I'm not quite sure what that value could be, but I definitely think subscription might be the way to go. It could even be that a carrier, maybe even ourselves at some point, will do a subscription for every kind of business. So no matter where you shop, you'll be recognised as a carrier customer, and you could have your VIP membership or whatever it could be. You know what I mean? I mean, there's so much potential that it could be owned by one, as long as the repeat purchase is there to be able to sustain it. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, the idea that by logging in, it recognises that I'm a carrier customer, which, I mean, I can't think of a single courier that does that sort of thing, where it would recognise the consumer as a customer. because obviously, well, I mean, it's partly because it's all done through the e-commerce platform, so you or the retailer. I mean, but obviously, if you had something like Carryr built in, you could log into that, or it would just detect your account, I guess. And could auto-populate your address. I guess even potentially your preferred delivery times. If I ask for a 7 to 9 p.m. delivery slot on every time I order through Carryr, then if it detects me, it can just say, right, here's your address, here's your delivery slot, click to order or edit it.
You're absolutely right, and we're seeing this kind of innovation happening through payments. I see it with Klarna, PayPal. When you hit that checkout, they know you're a Klarna customer already, and they've already got all your information plugged in already. They know which card that they're going to deduct the funds from. They know what your preferred payment method is. It's that kind of thing. It just really breaks down that friction. Because that's one of the biggest things retailers have throughout checkout, and it's always increasing the friction. There's so many distractions happening when you get to checkout. It's unreal, and delivery shouldn't be one of them. Likewise with payments, those two alone shouldn't be the cause of all this friction. And I think there's a lot of work to do, but I think that could be a really, really good way of reducing that friction for the retailer and the customer.
Yeah, exactly. I guess they're just seen as those standard things that people have to do, and therefore, if they've got to that point where they've added products to their basket and they've gone to checkout, they will fill out the checkout because they've made the decision to buy. But it doesn't happen like that. It's still so easy for someone to get to that checkout and just go, "Oh, do you know what? I can't be bothered with this." Like if you see a massive form to fill out. Like I haven't seen it very, very often recently. Well, probably the last couple of years. But having to fill out your entire delivery address and then fill out your billing address, even if they're the same.
Painful, really.
Stuff like that, and you kind of see it and you think, "Oh, do you know what? I could just go to this other site and buy it."
And I think you spoke about this before, actually, quite a couple of times, both on LinkedIn and through blog posts. Is just enabling a guest checkout and then giving them the option of creating an account afterwards if that's what they want. But about reducing that friction as much as possible. Does the customer really need to fill in all that information every single time?
Yeah, actually, so my one of my clients actually has a smart checkout, and so the first I don't think there's an option for a guest checkout initially, but what happens is you put your email address into the first field, and it'll detect whether you have an account or not. So if you have an account, it'll ask for your password, and then you log in and it will pre-fill everything for you. And if you don't have an account, it will then just kind of ask you to fill in the rest of it, which I think is really good because, I mean, effectively it's still a guest checkout because you still have to fill in this information. I think that's one of the weird things about guest checkout, really. The only difference is one of them asks for a password, one doesn't.
Yeah.
To create the account, but by clicking guest checkout, you feel like you've got less commitment.
Yeah, absolutely.
From more your preferences, really, do you have any pet peeves when it comes to marketing?
Yeah,
marketing, and I guess for you, it'd be more like operations and delivery related stuff as well.
Yeah, I think one thing is I would probably say is not communicating what your brand's about, and it doesn't matter what sort of industry you're in, what sort of model you've got. If you can really communicate the values of which you feel about the brand, that's probably one thing which I think needs to happen with every brand. And again, we're still working on that side of things. It's something we're really focused on. And a second thing is probably boldness. Be bold. I mean, there's only a finite amount of time we've all got. Just make the step and just be bold. There's such a noisy environment in front of us. Do what you can to really step out and make customers understand why you're different and why you will provide them value. And I think it's fundamental stuff. It's nothing fancy, but I just think it's probably something which not everyone really thinks about. They're always trying to think about what's the next thing. But I think boldness really is one of the things I really do enjoy, but I feel there's a lack of it in some places.
Yeah, definitely. Like getting your brand out in front of people, making sure people are aware what you're on about. I mentioned on LinkedIn recently, because one of the previous episodes was about loyalty schemes, and I mentioned that I just don't consider myself a loyal customer. I can't think of any loyalty schemes that I'm actually a member of, or if I am a member of them, any that actually prompt me to purchase more or actually engage me. And it's partly because there are just so few like actual brands out there, or as a proportion of all the businesses. Like there are just not many products where I think, right, I need to buy this. This is the website I'm going to go to. It generally starts with a Google search, and I'll just open up the top maybe 5 results and just see what's going on.
Yeah.
So I do think that's really important. Is there any particular area of marketing you feel is a bit underrated? I suppose apart from being bold and having a brand.
Again, it's back to the fundamentals as well. So I've been listening to a couple of podcasts around behavioural economics. So effectively reflecting or discovering the real motivations of the end customer, and really nailing down why people do these things. So, for example, early days of Facebook, for example, it was more curiosity that drove their growth. People were curious about, okay, well, I'm friends with these guys. Who else are they friends with? What are they doing? It's the curiosity about the people element side of things with that. And then you've got the brand side of the D2C side of brands, where they're really honing in on the values that they have. So, I mean, you've got really decent brands, for example, like Allbirds, for example. I'll name drop those. And they're really honing in on their eco-friendly values, and the good quality materials used to create their shoes. And it's things like that. They really understand their customer, and they really understand the behaviours that those customers have. And I think it's extremely underrated. And just understand whether what your product actually means to that customer. What does it spark? What emotions does it make your customers feel? And how can you pull those levers to be able to manage that as well? So I think that's probably one of the most underrated and probably one of the most fundamental things that really goes on in the whole marketing thing. I'm not a marketing genius. It's really just an observation, I think.
Yeah, I think behavioural economics it's really interesting, because you see it on a lot of sites, but it's just done badly, and it's not those kind of little nudges and things that are moving people on to the next kind of goal or objective on the site. Most of the time, they take the form of like massive banners and things, trying to like scare people into taking action. I think it's just a bit of a lack of understanding of how it really works. Like again, like Amazon's such a great example of this, with all their messaging around, if you order in the next 14 minutes, 59 seconds, you'll get next day delivery, or it can be delivered tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just subtle messaging around, I've noticed they're also doing extended returns for Christmas,
mm-hmm.
but again, it's just a line of text in the product description, whereas a lot of brands would basically stick a massive banner at the top of the page and say like free returns extended through January or something, which is kind of a key message. Yeah, I get people like it, but Amazon just go down the subtle route so people notice it and go, oh yeah, okay, cool, that's good.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you beat me to it. I was going to make that reference as well. It really is. They do a lot of things well. So they've got so many references in there.
Yeah, I mean, I did a webinar. Well, I think you might have been on it actually. A month or so ago?
Yeah.
Ago. And I had that screenshot of an Amazon product page, and I highlighted I think it's about 6 points, which are all basically these little nudges to try and get you to make your purchase today because they just put you at ease.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of scarcity and urgency. There's a little bit of the urgency with the delivery. Then there's that dealing with anxiety by saying, well, don't worry, you've got free returns until the end of January. So I think there's about 6 things on the page, which like subtly just nudge people towards making that purchase.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Cool. Well, I mean, it's been really great stuff. I think, delivery is such an important part of e-commerce and retail. So it'll be interesting to see how things develop over the next year or so. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Hit me up directly. It's chris@carryr.com, or you can just go through the website and learn a little bit more on the website. But I really just love interacting with people directly. So I'll welcome anyone to just drop me an email. More than happy to give people a demo as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.
No, thank you, Will. Thanks for having me.
Delivery is a really expensive part of the business. You've got to pay to store products, pay to ship it to a customer, pay for redelivery attempts, or to have it returned to you, and then pay to process that return as well. So surely it makes sense to invest a little bit more money into an option that will allow the customer more flexibility and let them pick a time that they know they can actually receive the product. The worst case is they get that 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Delivery slot, and they go to the shop, have a shower, go to the gym, whatever, and that just happens to be the moment that delivery turns up. You'll reduce your overall shipping costs, but you'll also build that brand loyalty with the customer. If you provide a good web experience, making it easy for someone to purchase, make sure the product is what they want and right for them, by giving them accurate and detailed clothing size, for example, and give them a convenient delivery option, your repeat purchases are going to go through the roof, and your customer won't want to take the risk of buying elsewhere. If you'd like to learn more about delivery options, contact Chris at chris@carryr.com or via the carryr.com website. Any other podcast questions, feedback, or guest requests, please send them over to will@customerswhoclick.com. Next up, I've got Ryo Chiba, founder of usetopic.com, talking with me about artificial intelligence and how it can help you craft a better SEO strategy. But until then, keep those customers clicking.